Welcome to The Bridge, the show that bridges the gap between Eastern and Western medicine, science and spirituality, physical and energetic health. If you're seeking to heal from within, ultimately achieving the pinnacle of health and well-being for your mind, body, and spirit, then rest assured, this show is tailored just for you. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Rogers. I'm a heart-centered, Harvard-trained epidemiologist, researcher, medical intuitive, and transformational health and longevity doctor. Basically, I find the clues that every other health practitioner misses because they're looking in the wrong place. Welcome back to The Bridge, a transformational health podcast with me, Dr. Elizabeth Rogers. Hey, podcast family, welcome back. What do time and vibration have to do with being optimally healthy and creating longevity? The answer is everything. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about on today's show. Now, throughout this show, part of my goal is to help you learn to be healthy and create longevity at a higher level, higher with a capital H. That requires us to have conversations and stretch ourselves beyond the three-dimensional realm. And it also requires us to start being optimally healthy and creating longevity more consciously and intentionally. Now, in order to talk about time and vibration, we're going to frame this conversation with the pasta guy story. I'm going to tell you that story right now. I will tell you all, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've learned a lot of lessons, and I am going to share every single damn one of them with all of you. No holding back. Full transparency. Now, in my life, I really only ever had two healthy relationships. The very first guy I dated in high school and the very last guy I dated, who is now my husband and my extraordinary galactic soulmate. In between, it's not so much, not good. Nothing to be proud of there. Nothing at all. And I've mentioned before that the relationship I was in prior to dating my husband was a very emotionally abusive relationship, and it was a long relationship. When I got out of that relationship, I was spent and I was done with dating, done with relationships, just done, period. End of story. And truth be told, I did not have a very healthy relationship modeled for me throughout my childhood and my family by my mother and father. And so I was not super duper pumped about the idea of getting married or being in a married relationship, although I did believe that it was certainly possible for me to have a healthy relationship that did not look like what was modeled for me growing up. But I had a near-death experience 18 years ago. And as a result, I know that and knew then that part of why I was here is to serve and to help others. And so I thought to myself at the time, maybe a life of service is just going to be good for me. And I'm content with that. And maybe I'm just never going to get into another relationship. Maybe I'm never going to get married. And maybe I'll just be alone and I'll have a blast helping as many people as I can along the way. And I'm okay with that. I felt very good with that at the time. So because that was my feeling at the time, I wasn't actively trying to meet people or date or anything like that. Enter the farmer's market. So I love farmers markets. I am a farmers market girl. I'll go to any farmers market or anything like that. I love being around fresh grown produce and homemade things. And I love supporting local businesses and farmers. And it just warms my heart. It makes me feel so good. And just the whole concept of farm to table, I just adore it. And where I was living in Pittsburgh at the time while I was finishing my doctorate, we had a local farmers market in my neighborhood. And it was once a week and it was fantastic. And I never missed it. And I would go just fill my bag bags with all kinds of fresh produce. I would make so many good things, and I just adored it. And one week I was circling the farmer's market and I caught this pasta vendor. And I'm a sucker for Italian because I am Italian, if I've never shared that with you. I'm not 100% Italian. I am 50% Italian, but I really identify and always have with my Italian heritage, and I'm really proud of it. And Italian food has always been my favorite food. And I am just a sucker for pasta, a good homemade pasta dish with some homemade sauce. Ugh, that's my jam. And so I see a vendor that's making homemade, selling homemade pasta and sauce. And that is what reeled me in. And I want to state for the record that what reeled me into that booth was only the pasta and the sauce and nothing else. So I'm reeled in. I'm super excited about the pasta and the sauce. And this guy who is working at the booth, comes up to me and says, "Hey, pretty lady." And I looked up and I was nose deep in all this pasta and different shapes of noodles and sauce flavors. And I was super excited. And I looked up and this nice guy standing there, I'll be honest, I didn't feel fireworks or lightning bolts or anything like that. And he was just okay looking, but he called me pretty lady, and that was nice. And so he got my attention. And we started chatting just a little bit, nothing serious, just very surface level. And, I told him that I love pasta, I love sauce. He helped me pick a few, made some suggestions. I made my purchase, and he handed me a business card. When I got in the car, I turned the business card over and saw his phone number was written on the back. And I must have sent him my phone number. To be honest, this person means so little, nothing to me now that I can't remember, which is unlike me because I have a very good memory. But I'm sure I must have sent him a text message. It's all coming back to me now. Thank you, Spirit. I love the co-creative process. My guides are just flooding the visual, vivid memory back into my brain right now. And now I can picture it. I do remember. I did send him a text message. I remember I got home. I put my groceries from the farmer's market away. I actually made some pasta and sauce that night for dinner because I was so excited. And I put his number in my phone. I do remember that evening, I sent him a text message that just said, pasta and sauce are delicious. Thanks so much. And said, mentioned my name in the text message. So he knew who it was. And that was it. I was not even sending that text message necessarily with the intention of it going anywhere, but he had given me his number, and so it was nice. And he called me pretty, and that was nice. And let's face it, it feels good for all of us to have attention when we haven't had it for a while. So we started into just a very surface level, not serious text messaging back and forth kind of conversation. Eventually, he did ask me if I wanted to go meet for drinks. And so we did. We went on 2 dates, nothing serious, never kissed, nothing like that. I wasn't, again, feeling fireworks or lightning bolts, but, it's like, well, free drinks and free whatever. And he's offering, and I didn't have anything else to do. And so I figured, why not? Well, we eventually end up on a third date. I actually vividly remember we went to this place called the Allegheny Wine Mixer, which is in a really cool part of Pittsburgh, a neighborhood called Lawrenceville that's been developing for probably the last 10 years with just tons of fabulous local restaurants, shops, vendors, bars, you name it. It's just awesome. So if you're not from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you ever go there, you got to go to Lawrenceville. Awesome neighborhood. So we go to this place called the Allegheny Wine Mixer. Now, this just goes to show you how much different I am now because I don't even drink alcohol anymore. But we go to the Allegheny Wine Mixer. He takes me home. And for the first time, I invited him inside to my place. And we were sitting on the couch, pretty close together. And he says to me, "I have to tell you something." Okay, I'm not really thinking much about it. It's the third date, you know. And he just says, "I just want to tell you that I'm married. Well, and I have kids, 2 kids." Well, And I will never forget. I was close to him on the couch. I literally jumped as far away from him as I possibly could get on the couch and was just repulsed and just disgusted. And I just remember saying to him, I'm sorry, what? You're like, you're dropping a bomb on me. And how dare you? Why would you go on 2 dates, 3 dates with somebody and then tell them this important fact about yourself? Now, I understand there are some people who may be very comfortable in those kinds of relationships. I personally am not. That is not for me. That's not aligned with me or for me. And it's just not something I was ever interested in exploring, nor would I ever be. And if you're telling me on date 3 that you're married, then that just brings everything into question for me, including your honesty and sincerity. Because if you're a good person and you have integrity and you're honest, there would have been no reason that he could not have just told me that before we ever went out on a first date. That's the right thing to do. That's a pretty big thing, right? And not for everybody. So that is something that he really most definitely should have disclosed to me before we ever went out for the first time. And then I would have excused myself and we never would have went out in the first place. So I just felt disgusted in general. And of course, that ended right there because I put a stop to it. And then this person continued to text me for a while. I eventually just put in a text message explicitly, word for word, I am not interested in being involved with you or with anyone who is in a relationship. End of story. And I probably said it a little meaner, but I just wasn't interested. And so that put a sock in it and ended that completely. And we never talked again. But then a few weeks ago, I get a text message from a random phone number. And it just says this: Hi, Elizabeth. I know been a really, really long time, but I was going through my contacts and saw your name, and I thought I would reach out and see how things are going for you. I hope you are doing very well. And I was reading this thinking, I know whoever is writing this doesn't use proper English. It's a pet peeve of mine. And then 2 hours later, this person sends me a message that says, I'm sorry about how things transpired between us. Now, I don't know who this person is. So when I see the message about 2 hours later, I wrote back and simply said, I don't have this number saved, so I don't know who this is. And then the person writes back and says, yeah, that makes sense. It was very long ago. My name is blank. I was the pasta guy at the farmer's market in East Liberty. Oh, gross. No, you don't come back around now. That's no, no. So, of course, I never answered that or responded again. I deleted and blocked the messages, but just no, abso-freaking-lutely not. Not would I ever engage with somebody like that again. Not ever. Now, so what does that have to do with time and vibration and being healthy? Everything. So I want to make a few points using this story to help. Now, the only thing that's real is the present moment. When we stay attached to the past or people from the past who no longer serve us, it's taking us out of the present moment. And this takes us further away from instead of toward being healthy. When we are being healthy and aligned, we are being fully present. I choose to be fully present. And so I choose and chose then not to engage with this person from the past, right? We leave the past where it belongs. The present moment is what's real. And when we are putting our time, energy, and attention on something or someone like this from the past, it's moving us out of being fully present, which also, once we're not present, you know what we're not anymore? We're not connected. We're not fully connected. We can be partially connected, but you're not fully connected anymore when you're not present. And remember that connection is the foundation and essence of being healthy. Now, point number 2. Since I met this person, I chose to continue to do my work and learn, grow, and heal. So that means I changed. I am not at all the same person I was back when I met the pasta guy. This means I am now a very different frequency or vibration than I used to be. And my frequency is certainly not a match for his, not even close. Now, the reason I was willing to even participate in any connection with him then was because my vibration at that time was closer to his. And so there was a potential for some sort of alignment. However, when I learned he was dishonest, I immediately knew our vibrations were not a match. So at that time in the past, I made a conscious choice then never to talk to him or associate with him again. Now, that choice instantly changed my vibration again, taking me even further away from this person energetically. So, for me to engage with this person now would require me to lower my vibration to meet his. And that would take me out of alignment, mind, body, and spirit, and out of alignment with being healthy. Because as soon as I lower my vibration, I'm not connected anymore. When we are being healthy, we are being responsible with our energy. We are staying aligned with our genuine energy. We are responding instead of reacting to others, and we are using boundaries to protect it, right? We're not just allowing people like this to willy-nilly flow in and out of our lives whenever they decide they want to. It's up to us to use our boundaries, protect our energy, and to be responsible with it. To honor the frequency and vibration at which we now currently exist. You know, every choice we make is either in or out of alignment with being optimally healthy. And so is every person we choose to associate and connect with. So choose wisely. Oh, and before I forget, I have to add this last part of the story, which is that after I cut ties years and years ago with the pasta guy, of course, I still continued to go to the farmer's market and he continued to be there as a vendor. I just chose to blatantly ignore him and act as if he wasn't there so that I could continue to enjoy my time and get healthy food. And a couple of weeks after we stopped talking, I happened to be walking by his booth and there was a woman standing there buying pasta, you know, doing her thing. And I heard him say to her, "Hey, pretty lady." Ugh, and I just remember my skin crawling and I remember thinking, oh, gross. Ugh. I fell for that sleaze. Ugh. So that was just his MO, you know? Sleazing and cheesing and creeping on girls at the farmer's market. Just, ugh, do better. You know what? If you're out there and you're single, watch your back and remember, do not lower your vibration for anybody else. When you do that and you choose to continue to give yourself space, you will continue to keep the space open for the right people who do align with your vibration, who you do deserve, who you are a match for. So choose wisely. I love you, podcast family. I hope that this resonates and sinks in for you today. This is a really important topic, and we will certainly talk many, many, many more times about time, vibration, and energy, and how and what they have to do with being optimally healthy and creating longevity. But until next time, I really sincerely hope that you can feel the love and the positive energy that I am infusing into this podcast today. And remember, the world needs your light. So trust yourself, trust your heart. And the way to do that is by staying connected to yourself, mind, body, and spirit, and to your source. That's all that being healthy truly is. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to The Bridge, a transformational health podcast with yours truly, Dr. Elizabeth Rogers. If you enjoyed the show today, it would mean so very much to me if you subscribe to the show and leave an honest, positive review. You can easily subscribe by going to the upper right-hand corner of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and press the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. Also, be sure to sign up for my email list and join our private community to get even more content, value, and support on your health and well-being journey. You'll find these links in the show notes. Sending you so much positive and supportive energy today. I really hope you can feel it.